All right, welcome back to another episode of Fastbreak Layup NBA podcast. It's Samuel here. We got Rico here. Say what's up, Rico.
Yeah, what's good, y'all?
All right, let me get into some quick headlines before we get into the parts 3 and 4 of the Jordan documentary. So, Draymond Green's been in the news recently. I don't know if you saw. He's been talking of a storm, talking about
Bro, he's just running his mouth right now, honestly.
He spoke about the Kevin Durant situation, talking about how what did he say again? He was talking about how if KD wanted to stay with the Warriors, then the Warriors would have like automatically got rid of him. And then he was also saying how Kevin Durant never addressed the elephant in the room of his free agency while Clay and Draymond were left to discuss about it. So,
I mean, definitely, he was like, I felt like it really wasn't his place to like speak about that situation. Because I mean, who knows? Maybe KD really ain't know where he wanted to go. I mean, despite what we may think, I'll just give KD that benefit of the doubt. But I feel like also like Draymond, he's just coming out talking about it because like he's kind of sick because he broke that team up essentially. He could have had like another like 2 rings or something like that, but
they think it's the guilt that's talking.
Yeah, definitely the guilt.
Yeah, it's probably the guilt that's eating him up. Honestly, it is his fault because KD came out and said on First Take earlier this season, he was like Draymond. The incident with Draymond was like the main reason of why he decided to leave the team. But other reasons that were of why he decided to leave the team, where he just felt like the fans and stuff were never gonna embrace him, like he was drafted there. I mean, what do you expect? You just join the team, hop on for like 2 rings, and then you skate. I mean, of course they're not gonna embrace you like Steph and Clay and Draymond. Those guys were like bred by the city and stuff like that, so they're gonna always be loved no matter what. So you're never gonna get that type of love.
It's facts. Because I mean, like, KD gotta understand, like, bro, like, you were the villain. Like, you're the villain right now. Like,
and he's still the villain to this day. I mean, till he wins with Brooklyn, he's gonna be that villain still. I mean, they took a little. Go ahead.
Nah, as much as like you know, like I'm not a KD hater or nothing like that, but like, you know, as much as like, you know, we from New York, you know, I want to see the Nets win, but like when him and Kyrie don't show up, I'm gonna be on him. Like,
well, of course, we gotta be on them. I know everybody likes to give Brooklyn a little slack because you know they're the secondary team in New York. Everybody likes to focus on the Knicks because the Knicks will give you the clicks and the headlines and whatnot. So if you don't deliver in Brooklyn with Kyrie and the squad that they have around them, then he's definitely gonna hear from everybody in this city. So
exactly, not even just the city. I want like a lot of conversations to either end or like just slow down because I feel like. Not saying like, you know, if he loses 1 year, like he can't win in the future, but like, this is just gonna like show us like, you know, like, is he really that guy to go out there and win like something for a team, or is he just a scorer? So, I mean, we'll see.
All right, next headline we got is there's a Kobe documentary that's going to be on development. They said that Kobe had, I think, for the last 2 years of his career, he had a film crew following him around. So that's going to be interesting to see. I mean, they didn't win anything, so it's going to be a lot of losing. But it's probably going to be talking about how he dealt with all it's going to be how he dealt with all the injuries and whatnot, and how he like helped, I guess, develop the young core that they eventually just traded all away. But yeah,
I mean, it's still interesting to see that.
Yeah, it's still interesting, especially to see how how his mentality went into that last game going into 60.
Word.
And then also this week, we had news of D Wade is going to be developing an '08 Olympic team documentary that's known as the Redeem Team that won the gold after they failed in 2004. So that's going to be interesting to see as well, seeing how the dynamic worked out with all those players back then.
No word. Speaking of D Wade though, I think this morning or like last night or something, I think Aaron Gordon dropped this track.
He dropped this track. Oh man, I didn't even get to listen to it because I think someone sent it to me or I saw it on Twitter, and I was like, yeah, I don't need to hear this because I'm not into all these NBA players rapping. Like, it's only a select few of them that's actually like legitimately good, but like other than that, I don't really want to hear it because
Yeah, it was pretty mediocre. Not gonna lie.
uh, so yeah, I didn't miss anything. Um, last bit of news that came out actually today is the NBA facilities may start to open starting May 8th due to certain cities lifting their stay at home orders. But when they get
Yeah,
into those facilities, they have to wear mask and like the staff that's with them has to stay at least 12 feet away from them, wearing gloves. So it's still gonna be very, very weird. But at least we're getting to some type of normalcy with like the NBA players resuming practicing and whatnot.
it's good to see that.
Facts. And last bit of news is all three Ball brothers signed to Rock Nation today, so that's interesting to
I
see.
mean, they've been making a lot of low key moves. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna lie.
like LaMelo bought the team that he was playing for in Australia. You got LiAngelo, who's still on the OKC G League team, so he's starting to try to work his way back into the NBA conversation at least. And then we got Lonzo, who's been steadily improving. Still a little injury prone, but still improving nonetheless.
Facts. I
I,
mean, they might get it together as a
Facts,
whole in a couple years, maybe. We'll see.
possibly. All right, so let's get into documentary talk now. Parts 3 and 4. I mean, what do you? I didn't get your thoughts on the first two episodes. How do you feel about the first two? Because you weren't here for the last episode.
I mean, it's a pretty good documentary.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to start off by saying that, but it was interesting to kind of see this different side of like essentially Michael Jordan and having to speak out on like certain things. And I really do appreciate how like when they talk about say if like they're focusing on a specific player or a specific era, they kind of go into the backstories of like each individual that like who played like a key role. I felt that was pretty interesting. And I mean, despite all the like LeBron versus MJ conversation, uh I feel like Michael Jordan he did a lot of like crazy things in terms of like his rookie season, just average like just he's just a walking bucket and like we knew this. But it was
Facts.
just interesting to like really like put that into perspective, like who he was really cooking. But like whatever.
Facts. Yeah. Going to the backstories. Yeah, that's my favorite. That's like one of my favorite parts because like it's like one thing to like read about their backstories on like paper or on the screen, but it's another thing to like visually like see like the clips of them playing in high school, like see pictures of their families and stuff like that, and like get interviews from their family members from back then. So it's like a whole totally different experience. It's like words jumping off the paper in a way, in a sense.
Yeah, it's facts.
So the first episode of what was it, yesterday? No, it was Sunday actually. Wait, yeah, that was yesterday. Yesterday's episode was focused on Dennis Rodman. It focused on his background, and then it went into the Bad Boys Pistons days, and then it talked about then it went into Doug Collins, his days as the coach of the Bulls, and then it went over the shot over Elo and the Bad Boys establishing the Jordan rules. So what was your favorite part of like that first Dennis Rodman focused episode?
Um, I definitely liked how they did a good job of kind of explaining Rodman, but not kind of like they did a good job of like explaining who Rodman was and not in like in a different way than like we've used to like
Yeah, they
hearing
didn't
about him
like
essentially.
characterize him as like the like not I don't want to say like a villain, like, but like that's the way he's sometimes perceived because of his eccentric personality and whatnot. So
Yeah, and he did like a lot of things off the court, and I feel like they spoke about it in a respectful way because I mean Rodman is pretty cool and like it was nice to really see like how charismatic and like how much of a difference maker he really was on the floor, on and off the floor actually.
yeah, so yeah, I one of the parts that I enjoyed early in the episode was when he was describing how he used to practice getting rebounds because we all know that's like one of the things he's most famous for, like I think he has the most games with like no points and like 20 rebounds. So
Yeah.
his main focus was always defense and rebounding. And I think one thing he said was that during layups lines, his teammates would be like, "Yo, come do the layup lines with us," but he was like, "Nah, just shoot and I'll just grab your boards." And he was explaining how like when it bounced off the rim a certain way, he knew exactly what position to be in to grab that rebound. I think that's crazy because I didn't really like think of specifically there was an art to rebounding, but he did a great job of explaining that there's like tactics that you can use and there's like a special type of positioning that you need to get on the court for and timing and stuff like that. So it was interesting to see him describe that.
Yeah, facts. Cause like when he like yeah, that part was like pretty interesting to me as well. Cause I mean, just knowing that he really put that much time into rebounding. Cause I mean, he was kind of for like the amount of boards he was getting, he was pretty undersized. So
I think
like
he was like 6'7", 6'8" I think so.
yeah, and like back then, there was actually like centers and people were like actually tall. So like I mean, he was like so like I saw on Twitter the other day, he's what Draymond thinks he is, and I agree. Like he really was out there snagging. Like he went out
Yeah,
there
he's 6'7", the
practicing.
same size as Draymond. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, man's really got to it. And I respect that. But
seven time rebounding champion. I'm peeping on his stats right now. So
yeah, I mean, there was games. I think one game he had like 0 points on like 28 boards. Like
that's crazy.
for real. And he used to play lockup defense, like on ball defense, which is like
Yeah,
crazy.
that's a lot of effort that you got to
Yeah,
expend.
yeah. And he was a hustle guy as well. Diving for loose balls. Facts. He was a high energy player, definitely.
Facts. So then we got they start talking about the Bad Boys because he was part of the early Bad Boys days, and they start going into the well, before they get into the Jordan rules, they talk about Doug Collins and how Doug Collins had like an impact on Jordan early in his career. Like he let basically Jordan do whatever Jordan wanted to do because he felt like that was leading to wins, and they were getting wins. And I guess they weren't utilizing Scotty as much as we would later see Phil Jackson would utilize him as. But he would let Jordan do whatever he wanted. And then there came this point in the series against Cleveland where they had a series lead and then they lost it. And then everybody was like, oh, here goes the Bulls again. Bulls can never sustain leads, blah, blah, blah. And then he hits the shot over Elo. It's funny because Ron Harper was guarding MJ that whole night, and he said that he was doing a pretty good job on it. And then he was like, he saw Coach put Elo on him. He was like, he was like, yo,
Bro,
F this yes, man. Like,
he knew it was a GG, bro. And I mean, like, I feel like if a player is straight up telling you, like, bro, like, first of
I
all, Ron
got
Harper,
him.
yeah, like he was guarding him the whole game, and it's like, granted, no one could really guard MJ. Like, bro, you don't just go and put Elo. Bro. Even MJ knew that was a mismatch. If
Like
you're
Elo,
big,
Elo,
bro,
MJ said himself, he was like, "Yo, Ron was doing the best job on me all night." And then when he saw Elo on him, he was like, "What?" He was like,
yeah,
"I
like
bet."
this is a bucket. Like,
Facts. So then after that series, they make their way to the conference finals where they finally meet up with the Bad Boys Pistons. I think this is the 89 season, I believe it is. So it's the 89 finals, 89 East finals, and the Bad Boys, they start to establish the Jordan rules. So former Pistons coach said, I found this graphic. It said number one was on the wings, push him to the elbow, don't let him drive baseline. And then number two was when he's on top, influence him to his left. And then number three is when he got the ball in the low post, trap him from the top. And the final one was if he gets into the paint, knock him down on the ground. And then we saw like Bill Laimbeer and Rick Mahorn and all those guys in the paint. Like as soon as he touched the paint, he was
yeah,
right back on the floor, like writhing in pain. And they didn't even call foul half the time. Like it was just like, yo, Jordan, you have to get back up and run back on defense because we're not giving you these calls, boy.
that's a fact. It was crazy to really see it because I mean, like it's just outrageous to know that they just blatantly allow flagrant fouls. Like,
Bro, half those fouls are like suspensions in today's NBA. Like it's crazy.
for real. Like, I mean, the good thing though is that they didn't like bridge him or anything like that. But like,
Word, or like severely injure him or anything like that, because
that
then it
would have
would have
been
been
bad. Yeah,
clipped.
yeah. And then I mean, I feel like yeah, Jordan did a good job of like really battling that adversity. Because I mean, I haven't. I mean, maybe there's clips of him like, you know, getting into it with certain players, but like I like
Mm-hmm.
he really didn't like get like ejected for like these fouls, things like that. It was just like he would get knocked down, get back up, try to get a bucket, and like they would be the ones who would like either like get like ejected or something like that, maybe, possibly. But it was just interesting to see his resilience.
Yeah, and then on top of that, what was it? They had a three. I think it wasn't a 3-1 lead. It was like a 2-1 lead, but then it got to like, I forgot, was it game 6 or game 7 where Scotty was like seeing double or whatever, and
Yeah.
then like he had just, and then his vision was just going blurry. I think they said, I think I saw a comment, someone was saying he had a concussion, but like they didn't diagnose concussions back then, so they didn't know what he had. So he was just
Mhm.
out there with like concussion trying to play. Mind you, he had Dennis Rodman out on him on the perimeter too, so that was like another demon he was battling. He had to battle
For real.
the concussion, and then he had to battle Dennis Rodman being on him, and then he just had to be taken out the game, and then they lost. And then key thing here is that even though they lost, MJ and them still shook their hands. We'll talk about this shaking hands thing later, because we know that's a big topic of discussion lately.
Mhm.
But yeah, they after that, Doug Collins, he gets I think fired, right? Yeah, they fired him.
Yeah.
Or
I
no,
mean,
that's episode 4. They actually start talking about that. So
mhm. I mean, before they fired him, I feel like also like we should be like when we speak about like, you know, like the Bulls and like MJ and like even like Kobe and things like that. I feel like they're often praised for like this like killer instinct, which is a good thing. But
mm-hmm,
as you can see, like we tend to like criticize stars, well, specifically LeBron, not to just like not to like I'm not like a LeBron like fanboy, not like that, but like we do criticize LeBron for like making like the extra pass sometimes. I mean, granted, he does make it too excessively in certain situations. It's a
mm-hmm,
conversation for another day.
mm-hmm.
But I feel like we have to like understand, or like we need to stop writing off that, like, you know, like Jordan was out there winning games, just like going out there dropping 50. Because I mean, he was dropping 50 with L's. Like we make fun of Devin Booker for that. And I mean,
Devin
like,
Booker is a different type of monster with those L's. Sorry to all my Phoenix Suns fans listen out there, but
yeah, I mean, at least Jordan was to lose by 20, but we're not getting on Devin Booker and the Suns. We're not about to do that. But yeah, like we also gotta speak about how like the Jordan made that realization in order to like win in like playoffs, things like that. He had to make the extra pass. So I feel like that was a good thing just to note in like that episode of the series.
also from this episode was they started talking more about like they flashed back in between like 1998 and like the early 90s, late 80s, focusing on Rodman. There was like Jordan was like, Rodman was key to those Bulls teams because he understood defense and he knew where to be and play his role perfectly. So there was like a montage of showing Dennis Rodman like hustle plays, and that was during that time where Scotty was out early in the season. So basically Jordan had to rely on Rodman to be his number 2. I found out odd though, because I feel like, wouldn't he rely on Tony Kukoc more? Like, did they just not bangs with Tony Kukoc like that? Because like I know Tony Kukoc was like, he was legit, but like you relied on Rodman to be number 2 and not Tony. I mean, sheesh.
Yeah, yeah. I don't even. I mean, honestly, Tony
When they gonna start
Kukoc.
talking about Tony Kukoc? Because like he's part of those Bulls teams that no one talks about. Like he was key when Jordan retired, and it was just like him and Scotty, I think it was.
Mhm.
So yeah.
I
But
mean, hopefully we can see something.
facts.
Hopefully, yeah.
But yeah, there were constant questions about MJ retiring also in this episode. Like everybody was asking like, "Oh, is he going to retire?" Cuz you know, MJ's thing was that he knew that Kraus didn't want to have Phil back, but he knew Kraus also wanted him back. So he was trying to make Kraus keep Phil longer, because he kept saying that, oh, he wasn't going to play for any other coach than Phil Jackson. So
I mean, that was interesting to see. I mean, Jerry Krause, I don't know what was wrong with him. Like, he tried so hard to be like,
His ego, man, his ego was eating him
yeah,
up. It's funny to think about it though too, because like Jordan says he didn't want to play for any other coach than Phil Jackson. I mean, that following season after the '98 season, Phil goes to the Lakers. So I'm surprised Jordan didn't just jump on ship with him and the Lakers. I mean, that would have been too OP, him, Shaq, and Kobe when you think about it. But that could have been a possibility because he said he wouldn't play for any other coach than Phil. So I mean, that was a possibility, low key.
yeah, yeah. It would have been wild if we saw something like that as well. And I mean, even speaking of Phil Jackson, I mean, I was watching the little episode or whatever, and I was just confused how like the Knicks ain't get that version of like Phil Jackson.
Bro,
Like,
it's a whole different story when you become an executive, I swear. Because, like, when you're an executive, you're in control of so many other moving pieces. Because as a coach, you don't have that much control of, I guess, the like how the roster gets constructed. You just try to build the system around the roster that's constructed for you. But as like I guess the president of basketball ops, he has to construct the roster for the coach, and I guess he wasn't solid at that. So
yeah, and I didn't even know he played for the Knicks. That was crazy
yeah,
to
that's the
see.
last time they won a chip.
Sheesh,
Unfortunately, yeah,
that's crazy.
it's been too long. It's been too long. But when Scotty came back, Rodman started to dissociate from the team because when Scotty was out, Rodman was like the number two, as we said before. So when Scotty came back, Rodman basically just like went back into that mental state he was earlier in the season, where he was just like floating, I guess, in and out of consciousness, I guess. So that's when Phil let Rodman take a vacation midseason, and it was supposed to be for 48 hours. But as we saw in the episode, the numbers just kept going past 48. It was like up to like 90, I think. And then it just
Yeah,
went back to them talking, and it was just like, I mean, that's just wild. Imagine a player asking for a vacation midseason now. Like, that's probably not flying on top of the fact that the way social media is today, like they'll just be all on top of that. Like,
yeah, that's a fact. Like, I feel like also in like the different like those eras of basketball, they benefited from not having like the technology and like the social media that kind of like plagues our like time today.
facts.
Which I mean this is a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. But like, yeah, like for example, like what I mean, Deion Waiters is no Dennis Rodman, but I mean that man he called out
Yeah,
sick.
like he called out sick and was on the boat chilling. Like that's an
Yeah,
example right
like
there. Like you just can't call, but like you can't call out sick and be on the boat. Like at least say that you want to take the vacation. Like Rodman came out and straight up said that he wanted a vacation. And I think that's part of the reason why their success was able to come about with Rodman the way he was, because like Rodman, after he left Detroit, like he was never able to find that same, I guess,
identity.
success and
Uh,
consistency with other teams that he was a part of. Like he just kept floating from team to team. And
mhm.
then when he finally got to the Bulls, it was just like Phil took his time to like understand Rodman, and like he took him under his wing and he saw him as like a friend, as Rodman said. So they were able to connect. And I guess also with Michael and Scotty, they were able to um I don't want to say control him, but they were able to like understand him to a point where he was like under control and was able to contribute at a high level. So
Yeah, they had. I feel like another good reason why the Bulls had the success they did was that they had really good like team chemistry. Everybody balanced out in a certain to a certain degree, and everyone kind of made they made well to an extent the franchise made certain sacrifices with like allowing Rodman to go on those breaks and like
hmm
even I mean they did Scotty wrong though.
yeah, they did do Scotty wrong.
So I mean they they tried at least, but I feel like the players held it down, which mattered the most.
Yeah, and they got it done. They got 6 titles. I mean, they could have had more probably if they treated Scotty right and if Jordan didn't retire both times and like whole bunch of other factors that fall into that. So,
Yeah.
and then going into episode 4, because after the Dennis Rodman vacation, they start talking about Phil Jackson's career, how he played for the Knicks, coached overseas, etc., etc. I found one funny keynote was when they said Phil took acid and he thought he was a lion.
Oh yeah, and
That
then
part
had the
made me
picture,
weak.
did the picture of him in the cab. That was funny. The afro, that was hilarious, actually.
So then they start talking about how Phil basically became first he was an assistant under Doug Collins with the Bulls, and he started to like learn the triangle from Tex Winter, and he wanted to Krause wanted to institute that offense because he felt that it would take the team, I guess, to another level at that point. So he decided to fire. Krause told MJ that he was gonna do something to shake up the team, and then MJ was like, "What's that?" And then he was like, "I'm gonna have to fire Collins." And then MJ was just like, "The guy just took us to the Eastern Conference Finals against the NBA champions. Like we went to like game, what was it, 6 or 7, and you're gonna fire the man?" And then Krause was like, he has to do it because he wanted Phil to institute the triangle. But MJ wasn't on board with it too because he felt that that system would take the ball out of his hands and he wouldn't be able to score as much as he did before.
Mm. And I mean, it was. I mean, as much as we hate Jerry Krause, I mean, that man made some good moves,
He did.
and like even like the whole story of Phil Jackson and having him like basically be like basically study under like Doug Collins and like the Bulls like coaching staff for a little bit, and then eventually like implementing him. That definitely was like a good move by him, and he kind of made the transition a little bit smoother. And I mean, it worked out in the end with like them like basically being able to beat the Pistons like shortly after they lose that one time. Well, that following year, I think.
Yeah. So when Phil Jackson takes over, there are still points that where MJ is still going off for like 60 plus. I think they showed when he went off for like 69,
Mm-hmm.
and then Tex Winter was telling him on the bench, "You got to pass the ball, man." Like, and then he was like, "There's no I in team," and then MJ told him, "There's an I in win though," and
No,
that's a fact. There's an
that
I
is
in win.
facts. Yeah,
So I mean, hey.
gotta do what you gotta do.
And then I remember there was a quote that was flown around, I think last night, where it was Kobe, where Kobe had said when someone I think said this, the around the same type of like no, there's no I in team. Kobe was like, there's a me in that MFer, so
Mhm.
there's an ME in there, so
It's
hey,
whatever. Yeah.
facts. So under the triangle, that's when Scotty actually started to blossom into the point forward because the ball was being out of MJ's hands now and being passed around to other people. So Scotty was starting to discover how much more he could really do under the system of Phil Jackson. But BJ Armstrong said that it was hard for the players to adjust to the triangle because like it was a brand new system. They never learned it before. They were so used to having MJ with the ball in their hands all
Yeah.
the time. So
So used to
they
getting
weren't
carried.
word like they used to getting carried. Now they got to do something. They don't know what to do. They probably out there on the court looking shaky.
Nah, for real though. And I remember Jordan had brought up one point. He was like, "Oh, he didn't want Bill Cartwright taking a shot with like
And
five
then they
seconds
showed, Bill Cartwright missing like a 5-footer.
That wasn't right. That wasn't right at all.
Now, whoever put those scenes together like that, they not right, man. Because I know Bill Cartwright was at home just trying to chill, enjoy the documentary, and he didn't know that part was coming up.
Nah,
He got caught
OD.
off guard.
That's a fact.
Nah, they have to do Bill Cartwright like that, man. But
OD.
yeah, it gave an opportunity. The triangle gave an opportunity for different players to get their hands on the ball, etc. So, here is when Scotty was messed up in Game 7 versus Detroit. I think they had like a 3. It was I forgot what lead it was, but they had a lead in the series.
Mhm.
And then Detroit starts to come back. This is the 90 Eastern Conference Finals this time. And it goes to Game 7, and the Bulls lose because Scotty had the concussion as we talked about earlier, but it wasn't diagnosed as a concussion at the time. So But at this point, MJ was getting tired of losing to Detroit. So him and the Bulls decided to start weight training the following season. And they said that it was hard for someone like MJ to gain muscle because he's always burning calories, but he ended up putting up 15 pounds of muscle before the season started. So I found that like that type of work ethic to like just dedicate to put in 15 pounds of muscle before a
Yeah,
regular season, that's crazy.
that's wild. And shout out that training staff as well. They did their thing.
Facts. And you kind of notice the difference between like MJ in those late 80s, early 90s days to like when they start weight training. Like you see the difference in Scotty, you see the difference in guys even like Horace Grant and MJ himself. You see those guys, they look more built, they look like they're ready to like be more physical with a team like Detroit. So they dominate that regular season, and then everybody's like wondering, can they finally beat Detroit? Can they finally beat Detroit? And they end up sweeping Detroit, which I didn't know that they swept Detroit in the 91
Yeah, I
Eastern
thought it was
Conference
like a game
Finals.
5 or something, game 6.
Yeah, I thought it was like a game 5 or a 6-game series, but I didn't know that they swept them. And then here's where Detroit walks off without shaking their hands, and Horace Grant with a nice straight up bees line right there.
Nah, that's a fact. I mean, and Isaac, bro, Isaiah Thomas, bro, he had a good 20 years to prepare his excuse, bro, and he still got up there, bro, and said not nonsense, bro. He tried to basically pass the blame to Lambeer, and I'm like, bro, you're the
And then he
point.
also tried to pass the blame to the Celtics too, like, oh, the
Yeah,
Celtics
like
did it to us when we beat them, so we could do it to the Bulls. It's like a rite of passage. Like, bro, that's not how it works. Be the bigger person. Be mature.
that's
Like,
a fact. And then like even so, like after the fact, like he was still telling people, he was going on interviews saying, "Oh, now we ain't really lose, we left," and like all this other stuff. Like, bro,
it's like, bro, just accept it. Just accept it. Just take the L and move on. Keep it pushing. This is why he was kept off the '92 Dream Team because of stuff like this.
yeah, he just it was crazy how they let him off that dream team though.
That's
Like,
that's MJ. That's MJ's.
yeah,
That's MJ's power right there. He was
that's a
like, I
fact.
bet you're gonna be petty. I can be petty too. You're not gonna be on the dream team. You're not gonna be on the best Olympic team ever assembled. We're gonna pick John Stockton. And who else did they pick? Christian Laettner and stuff like that? Like,
Yeah.
yo, nah, that's crazy.
That's true. And I mean, let's say we wanna cut, Isaiah Thomas some slack and say, okay, yeah, you want to let like Lambeer kind of like take the blame or whatever. Like I mean, to an extent, I feel like regardless, it was straight BS. Because I mean, if it was that was the case, it's like, oh, he wholeheartedly felt like, oh, it was wrong, and like he would have said something, like he would have came
Word.
out, he would have like addressed it, and I mean, he would have probably been on the dream team, like we said, but like he didn't want to talk about it, so that's what
And the
happened.
funniest part was MJ watching the clip of Isaiah chatting, and then he was just like, bro, what are you
What?
talking about? What are you talking about? Like, why are you lying right now? Like, I don't care whose fault it was. Y'all could have still gave me that because he said himself the previous 2 years when y'all beat us, MJ said he went to dap everybody up. He gave everybody their respect because it's just a matter of respect. Like y'all the better team. Like good luck to y'all. Hope y'all success on moving forward, etc., etc. But Pistons was not on that timing, so
That's a fact. It was sad to see.
facts. And then we get to the 91 finals where it's Magic Johnson versus Michael Jordan. Game one, Lakers won by 2 despite a bad game from the Bulls. And then MJ said after that game, he was like, even though we had a bad game, we only lost. We almost beat them. So he was very confident going into the next game. And the next game, they decided to change their defensive game plan where they decided to have Pippen guarding Magic full court. And David Aldridge, he was in the interview, he was saying how like nobody did that because that's how you get yourself made look like a fool. Because like Magic's like a wizard with the ball, but Magic was never able to get the offense going right for the Lakers at the time because Scotty was just clamping him. And I
Mhm.
was just like, Sheesh. I didn't know Scotty, like, I knew Scotty was like clamps, but I didn't know he had magic on like lockdown like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I felt like that series as a whole was kind of underwhelming as well. Because I mean, granted, it wasn't like prime, Showtime Magic,
Yeah, it's
but
still magic in the Lakers.
yeah, like James Worthy was still out there. Like
Had a
I
lung
mean,
Vladi, like,
yeah, Vlade D, like come on, like
and it was a 5 game series. I thought this series went like 6 or something because I know Jordan's series never went to 7. So I was
mhm,
like, this had to be like a 6 game series. But yeah, in game 2, Magic Jordan just starts to go off for like 13 straight field goals, including the famous switch hand layup, which I have
yeah,
to say it's a nice layup, but I feel like it was totally unnecessary because there was nobody in the lane that was gonna block the shot. Like he literally switched it for finesse. Like he could have dunked it. That's how wide
mhm,
open the lane was for him because they were just clearing the lane. He didn't have to
yeah,
switch hands. He was just going for finesse. I mean, it's a nice layup, but it's a little necessary. Like, what if it slipped and then there goes the scoring spree? It's
yeah,
over. It's
yeah.
over.
He would have been looking like Patrick Ewing out there. You could have just dunked it, but you want to finger roll it. And I mean, granted, it was a nice layup, but I mean, you'd been singing a different tune if you'd have blew that layup. And I mean,
Facts.
his whole reasoning, I think I saw like a while ago. I don't remember when I saw it. He was like, he just wanted to like, I mean, it could be BS too, but like he was like, he just wanted to make the shot a little bit harder or something like that.
I,
And
I I sort of believe that because like MJ, like he doesn't want anything too easy. I feel
mhm,
like that's the type of person he is. Like same with Kobe. Like those guys, they don't like it too easy. Like I remember sometimes Kobe would shoot shots with his left hand for like no reason. Like it wasn't due to injury because I know sometimes he did do it for injury, but
mhm.
other reasons it's just these guys they just want to make things harder on themselves. I guess just to push themselves even further, which is weird, but that's them. But that's that competitive nature in those two.
Yeah, I mean, more power to them, really.
Facts. And then we have game 5, which I want to call the John Paxson game now because I didn't know he had such an impact on the game. But
Wait, I'm glad before you go, I'm glad you said that. And I
mhm,
mean, not to bring up another LeBron thing, but I feel like people have this narrative that like, oh, if like you're not the one hitting the shot, like you got saved when it comes to like LeBron. And I feel like,
mhm,
some like it's a team sport,
mhm.
you're not gonna always be the one to hit the big shot in certain situations, like with Ray Allen hitting the shot and like Paxson hitting the shot. So it's like, are we gonna say Paxson saved Jordan? No, because Jordan still had like 30 plus. And I mean,
Facts.
I don't remember the stats from that LeBron game because I'm not a
He
LeBron
had a good
like
game. He had
fully
a good
like
game.
activist. My
He
place.
had a good game.
So I
Yeah.
mean, you can't just. I feel like yeah, you
I
can't
feel
say
like it's
people is
it's
out here saving you
funnier.
sometimes.
It's funnier to clown on Braun. I feel like these days
It's
it's
because his fan
funnier.
base. It's his fan base.
His
You have
fan
to
base
calm
is
down.
his fan base is insufferable. So you have to clown him just to get them tight because they just blow it out of proportion in response. Like you could be fully joking with a Braun fan, and then they'll be like, "Oh, he didn't win without Scotty." Blah blah blah. Like, "Hey, bro, relax, relax, relax. It was
Facts.
never that serious. Relax, bro, relax. It was never
That's
that
a fact.
serious." But yeah, going into game 5, John Paxson game, I call it now. Sorry, Jordan stands whatever. But yeah, Phil Jackson basically when they got in the huddle, he was like, "You don't have to keep forcing it." And Steve Kerr actually used the same story when he was talking to Kevin Durant during the Western Conference Finals in 2018.
Mhm.
He was basically like, "Oh, how going to Steve Kerr story. Steve Kerr was like, Phil told Jordan, you don't have to keep forcing. You don't have to keep forcing it. Look for who's open. Who's open?" And then Jordan was like, "Paxson." And then Phil was like, "All right, so then keep giving it to Paxson." And then going back to the documentary, Jordan said when he noticed that after Paxson made that first 3, he was like, "Oh, okay." He's like,
Okay, like
he basically had an I bet moment. Like, I bet I got a sniper with me. So he decided to keep driving. He was like, I kept driving, kept kicking, and then Paxson just kept nailing them shots. I knew Paxson had the shot, but I didn't know he had it going on like that in that game. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, I bet. Like Jordan had some people with him, but like it's not to the extent of like Braun fans make it where they make it seem like every teammate he had was like
it was
lights
like a
out. Like,
yeah, yeah. I mean, his team had pieces. They were deep to an extent.
mm-hmm,
Same with LeBron. His teams were deep, and I feel like I just feel like we gotta also kill that narrative of like these players just playing with nobody. Granted, sometimes they did,
Nah, in
but
those early Jordan days, Jordan was
yeah,
playing
he
with
had
like the
nobody.
crackheads, so we gotta give him that slack.
The
We gotta give him that
plumbers.
slack. He took the crackheads to the playoffs, so we gotta give him that.
That's a fact. Exactly. And I feel like, you know, we just gotta acknowledge when like certain players were actually there. And I feel like stats don't tell the whole story as a whole in terms of like later on. Because I mean, granted, bums are bums regardless, but
Facts.
there's just some people who don't show up on the stat sheet.
Yeah, they do the little things. So at the end of the episode, we got Jordan snitching. So how you feel about that?
Nah, he was wrong for that. I was watching it and I was just like, wow, Jordan, you want to,
Yo,
bro? Like he ain't game, bro. Like he gained nothing. Like he could have just been like, oh yeah, my man's like to party, just left it at that. He's
yo,
all
bro.
like,
He was
oh,
like, yo, he's single and he be out all night doing God knows what. And then he was like, yo, my mom and dad are gonna be watching this. And then MJ was like, yo, mom and dad, he's an alcoholic. I was like, yo,
yo, like
that's OD. Like, bro, you can't be doing that.
not OD. And I think his wife had responded, but I didn't get a chance to see her response. But
Yeah,
that's just crazy.
I missed that. I missed that. I think let me see if I can pull it up on Twitter right now, actually, because I saw that she responded. Let me see. What was his name? Scott Burrell. There it is.
Yeah.
Where is that tweet? Because I saw it too. Where is that? See, I didn't think he was snitching with the cocaine thing.
Mm-hmm.
I thought like, it's been like what, 40 plus, I don't want to say 40 plus years. That sounds like it's been like 30 plus years or whatever. So it's like they was already calling them the traveling cocaine circus. So they already knew that something was up with the team. So Jordan was just confirming all they biases or whatever and whatnot. So I feel like that was just, bro, where is Shorty's tweet?
Yeah, it was wild. I mean, yeah, I mean, he wasn't blatantly snitching in that one, but you can make the argument, I guess, that maybe he was snitching in that. But like, yeah, I mean, but this right here, he was just tripping. Like, I don't know what he thought he was
I
doing.
found it. I think I found it. His wife said, I was in high school when Baby Rodman was at his peak. And then someone tweeted at her to mute the last 5 minutes of the episode. And then she was like, nah, I want to hear about Baby Rodman, because that's what they called him.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rob Perez, who everybody knows on Twitter as Worldwide Wob, he was like, biggest L's of the Last Dance night too. Number 4 was anytime Scott Burrell told his family he wasn't coming home because he was busy working. And then his wife, I guess, retweeted that tweet and said, really? Number 4 was a W in my book. Basically, I guess she was happy that he wasn't coming home or whatever. That's another thing right there that we gotta watch out for.
Focus on you, bro.
Facts. Focus on yourself, bro. Focus on yourself.
Nah, I'm dead.
But yeah, next week they showed the previews for next week's episode. So I think next week is gonna be focusing on like the Air Jordan brand, and then it's gonna be talking about, I guess, we're probably gonna see Kobe's his interviews. Rest in peace, Kobe. And then it's gonna talk about the fallout with Horace Grant, because a lot of people don't know why Horace Grant ended up leaving the team. And I think they showed a tease basically how like the media was getting like information that was like secret relatively in the locker room, and everybody was wondering how it got out. And MJ was like, it was Horace was like basically jealous that Scotty and MJ were getting all the shine and whatnot, and he felt like he was part of their, like, I guess, trio or whatnot. So he was jealous of the shine that they were getting, so he was leaking stuff to the media and stuff like that. So we're gonna see that. I'm interested to see that because I didn't know about all that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
I had to look into it earlier today because I remember watching the clip last night and I was like, what happened between Horace Grant and them? Like why did he leave? And then seeing that clip and then doing my research, I was like, "Ooh, this is about to be a great episode," because
Yeah.
I want to see how Jordan and them handled having like someone like basically a mole in their presence. Because I mean, people leak stuff to the media all the time now, but like back then, it was just like you don't do that stuff.
Yeah, media wasn't that big as it is today. Like,
Yeah, it's like the difference in eras. Like you see how different things would be taken out of proportion and stuff like that. Because
mhm.
I mean, if someone is like leaking stuff like that in the locker room today, that's probably like normal now. Because we hear all the time about stuff that happened in the locker room. So
Or
it's like
D'Lo.
that's a fact, D'Lo. But yeah, Horace Grant was basically their D'Angelo Russell, and they wasn't cool with it. So I'm interested in seeing that
Facts.
and the Kobe interview too, because I
Word.
want to see what Kobe had to say about like I guess those early meetings in the late '90s. So
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely gonna address like Jordan, uh, basically seeing Kobe coming into the league and like essentially him like seeing like a mini him and like Kobe, and then like I hope it doesn't get too sad in that episode.
yeah, I
And
can't deal with that.
yeah, hopefully it's not like that. And I mean, it'll be nice to see like they start to speak about like their Jordan branding, and like I mean, I hope they could touch a little bit on like some of his retirement, like I mean, I don't know if he ever came out publicly and said like why exactly he felt like retiring, or like just like talk about a little bit of like the retirement, and then like him being trash at like baseball and like coming back and like things like that. It would be nice to see that.
Yeah, and possibly why did he keep making sneakers after like I want
After
to
like
say
14, bro.
after like 14? Like why? You could have stopped. Like
Yeah,
why? But yeah, I mean, we got 6 more parts. After next week, it's gonna be 4 more parts. So
I mean, we'll see. It's a great series so
facts.
far.
I mean, it had high expectations coming into
Mhm,
it because we're like all starved for basketball content at this point. But like
mhm.
it's meeting those expectations, which I'm really surprised at. Because usually when you have high expectations for something, it usually falls flat of the mark. But I'm surprised that it's actually like been holding up. So
That's facts. And I feel like Jordan wasn't about to let them tarnish his legacy like that with a bad
facts,
film.
facts.
He was 1 for 1 with Space Jam. Now he 2 for 2. So I mean,
Facts. That's a
we gonna
fact.
see.
Facts. All right. Any closing thoughts before we finish up here?
And stay safe out there. Stop going outside. If you're in one of those states that's like lifting some of the bans and stuff,
Yeah, Florida and
don't be
Georgia is
stupid.
wilding.
Yeah, like bro, stay inside, bro. It's not that deep. You're
Facts.
gonna get the Rona. Relax.
That's a fact.
That's
Alright.
about it though.
That's it for this week's episode, y'all. Thanks for watching, listening. Make sure y'all subscribe on YouTube and Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen, wherever you watch. Make sure y'all follow the Instagram page, Twitter page at FBL_NBA pod. What else? And check out my website. I haven't posted anything new, but still check it out, for my sake. And that's it.